Hello everyone! So I have a really exciting video for you guys today because I have officially been crocheting for 1 whole year. Like, wow, I can't believe that just over a year ago I never crocheted. You know, I had that part of my life that is so important to me now and it just wasn't there. So I can't exactly remember what it was that made me want to start crocheting. I think I saw something on my Facebook that someone had crocheted, like on one of my pages that I'm in, and I was like, well, how hard can that be? Well, I found out. But I ordered a set of crochet hooks online, so they came in this little case, and some of them aren't in here because I used them to make polymer clay handles, so I put my wooden ones in here, my bamboo ones that I picked up later, but just a good idea of what it looked like. So I just had some simple metal hooks in various sizes in this little purple little leather case, and I had this little tub of wool from when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, I used to like just putting a needle through the wool, just like sewing onto bits of fabric. I wasn't like, I won't say I did sewing because what I did cannot be classed as sewing, but I just like to mess around with it as a kid. And it was just like a little, so I'll open it up for you. But it's just like this little bag of, it's like this little bag of scraps of wool of various colours. So I had that, so I got my brand new crochet hooks I got for £5 from eBay, and some wool that was just lying around the house because I didn't buy wool, and I was like, oh, do I have any? And I just found it in one of the drawers, like this little bag from when I was a kid, so I thought, right then. And now you're about to see my very first attempt at crochet. You ready? Yeah, it was just this mess of yarn, and it was just, I mean, look at it. It was horrendous. And I'd like watched a YouTube video to try and do it, and I was like, this is terrible. I can't do this at all. So I went down to my nan's that weekend. I had already planned it, and I just happened to go down there. And I mentioned to her that I was starting to do crochet, and she was like, "Oh, cool! I do knitting, but I don't know. I was never able to do crochet." So I was like, "Okay, well, you sit there and knit, and I'll try and do my crochet." But my nan doesn't have Wi-Fi, so I was trying to like remember what the video had said, and it just wasn't going any better. And I was like, "Nan, I'm gonna give up crochet." And she was like, "No, you can't do that. You can't." I was like, "Nan, look, I'm not any good at it. It's never gonna happen. I've only put £5 into it. It's not a big deal. Let's just let it be." And she was like, no, Malika, come on, you have to stick with it. And she made me promise that for the next week, I would put half an hour of my day into trying to crochet, just half an hour a day. And I was like, oh, okay then, Nan, for you. And she took me upstairs to her room, which I'm telling you right now is like a treasure trove of yarn. She has so much of it there. And she let me pick some out, and I picked up a ball of orange yarn, and I said, okay, well, I'll take this back with me and I'll try to practice on it. And from there, I started making slight improvements. So I'm trying to find, here we go. So, and I do mean slight improvements. So this was my next attempt at single crochet. So I've got my chain there and then the single crochet there, and I realised it wasn't working, so I just cut it off and left it. And yeah, like it was a mess. It was still a mess, and I was like, yeah, this is definitely not working still. I really am bad at crochet. But then I tried again, and I decided I was going to try to make a square. So I started out in my rows of single crochet going up and down, and I realised, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but I realised I'd missed a couple of stitches. And I was like, well, that's uneven, so I'm going to go back and fix that. So to go back and fix it, I started going around the outside, thinking, well, that will get it back, fill in the gaps from the stitches I missed. And then I just sort of kept going round and round. And I realised that what had started out as a square was becoming a bowl. And I had no idea what was happening, but I decided to just go with it. And I realised later I was doing front loop only single crochet before I even knew what front loop only single crochet was. I was trying to do normal single crochet, but I was only doing it in the first loop by accident. And I just kept going round and round and round. And like, so by the time I got to like the height where this is, I had put 7 or 8 continuous hours into it. I completely lost track of time. I was just on each stitch going, okay, let's see how this is going. And I was putting so much concentration and time into it. Like honestly, nowadays I could probably make a better bowl than this in like 10, possibly 15 minutes. You know, this isn't hard at all. But for me back then, a year ago, I was like amazed by the thing that was like materializing in front of me. And then I had this little bowl thing, and I had no idea what to do with it because it was too small to be a hat, and it was too useless really to be anything else. So I went on one of my crochet, because I'd followed a few Facebook pages for dedicated to crochet by then. So I went on one of them and I was like, what can I do with it? And they were like, why don't you put a handle on it and make it into a basket? So I thought, cool. And this is one of the things where I realised that crochet is something that I feel a sort of natural inclination to, because I didn't have to look up how to do a handle or to get any pattern. I just figured, well, a handle, I'm going to need to chain, and then I need to slip stitch and then go back along the chain. And I sort of just like winged it myself, which I know is easy, but back then when I knew nothing about crochet, it's good that my mind immediately went there because crochet makes so much sense to me in my head. And then I had this cute little basket, and it's not very good, but I made it, you know. It was the first ever project I made, completely accidental, and I use it to keep my yarn ends in. So basically when I have to chop off my yarn ends once I finish a project, I put them all in here so that eventually they can be used to stuff amigurumi. But yeah, I still use it to this day. I've emptied it just for the purpose of the video. But it's my first project, and I feel a big sort of sentimental warmth towards it, because even though it's rubbish, it was my first piece. And then from there, I tried to replicate what I did, and this one was a lot neater, so it's a bit flatter on the bottom, and it's just like a sort of smaller one, and I used this to keep all my stitch examples in. So, I'll show you some of my attempts at things. So we've got, I think this is, I want to say this is half herringbone, because it's got a bit of diagonal to it, but doesn't have the height for a regular herringbone. So this was my first attempt at that, I think. Then we have, where is it? Then we have my first attempt at double crochet, which as you can see, didn't go very well. It was a bit lopsided and uneven. However, my second attempt was a lot better. So this was my second attempt at double crochet, and I'm really glad I kept these examples because I think it's really important to sort of see the progress I made and see where I was at the beginning. And then the first stitch I learned that wasn't just regular single or double crochet was the herringbone stitch. So this was my first attempt at the herringbone stitch. And then with the herringbone stitch, my cousin had just given birth to a baby boy, and I was going to be meeting him in a couple of months because she lives in Canada, but she's originally from Tunisia, and she was flying over there to meet the rest of my family, so I figured I'd sort of catch everyone there. So I wanted to make a baby blanket for her new baby boy, and unfortunately I don't have a picture of it, and I'm really annoyed. I've got a picture of it like with the baby, but I don't want to put his face on the channel. So, but yeah, I don't have a picture of the blanket, but I bought it was from some yarn I got in a bundle on eBay. It was Banat baby blanket yarn. I think the colour was called Little Cosmos, but it was like blue, brown and white, and it was such a cute little baby blanket, and I put so many hours into it because I was so new to crochet at that point. You know, I was just learning from YouTube videos. I didn't have anyone in my life who knows crochet, but I was just thinking, you know, I can't wait to meet my little cousin's baby, so I just was so excited, and I made it, and yeah, he absolutely loved it as well when I first gave it to her to give to him, and he just like, he was sat on the sofa, bless him, because he was about 4 months old by then, I think, and he was just sat on the sofa, and he sort of looked at the blanket, and he's literally flopped his face down on it. It was like rubbing his face on it, and it was the cutest thing. He absolutely loved his blanket, and I cannot describe how much that warms my heart, just seeing something that I poured so much love and time into, and seeing him react to it the way he did. It was just amazing, and it made it absolutely so worth it. But anyway, back to my other examples. So, honestly, I'm not sure what this is. Maybe like an attempt at the granny stripe, like it's got little gaps in there. And oh wait, no, I know what this is. This was my first attempt at the bean stitch. And then I realised, because I love the look of the bean stitch, but I was so new back then, and I realised I am not cut out for it at this point in time. Like nowadays, I'm much better at the bean stitch. It's one of my favourites. But back then, it was just too hard, and I gave up on it. And then I also had an attempt at the shell stitch, but as you can see, that curved in on itself a lot, so it was kind of like a ring. Like, the actual shells themselves aren't too bad. It was more, if I can show you them, it was more the tension issue because I made the starting chain way too tight. But again, I'm much better at the shell stitch now. Also, I think I was wrong. My second attempt at the double crochet that I showed you earlier, I think that's actually my third attempt. My second attempt, I got a bit lost, and I just made this thing that I think looks like a fish. My husband thinks it looks like kind of like a little alien man. So I guess either fish or alien man. But I got lost and I kind of tried to fix it. So I ended up with this. And also, my husband, right, he takes his like wedding ring off to shower and stuff, and he completely forgets where he puts it all the time. So at this point, I think I was about a month into crochet, and he had lost his wedding ring. It later turned up in a printer box. It had like fallen off the side into a printer box, so he didn't find it till like months later. But he had lost his wedding ring, and as I was so new to crochet and I was like obsessed with it at that point, I was just like, right, crochet can fix this. So I crocheted him a little wedding ring to put on his finger out of the only yarn I had at the time, which was like the orange yarn. So I made him this little crochet wedding ring that is terrible, but he liked it, he appreciated it, we had a good laugh about it. So since then I have learned a bunch of stitches. I'm actually going to be doing a video in the next couple of weeks showing off some of the stitch samples. So I made some stitch samples just so I can sort of show potential customers if I'm making orders for them, they can choose their things. So I've learned so many stitches since then. I've also had an attempt at Tunisian crochet. It's hard to see with the yarn I chose because I've got a 6mm, I've only got a 6mm hook for the Tunisian crochet. So yeah, the stitch sample isn't very good, but I had an attempt at it, and I might come back to Tunisian crochet. I just find it difficult with the hooks being like that bit longer. I also got this blocking board in a Simply Crochet magazine, so I haven't really used it much to be honest, but I've used it a couple of times for like smaller squares. So you just basically, you put your item on there and use the wooden pegs to hold it in place, and then you like spritz it with water, and then when it dries it will hold its shape better. So that's the purpose of a blocking board, and this one's really convenient because it's small, it's made of foam, and yeah, this is the whole reason I bought that Simply Crochet magazine that month, was because I thought, well, this will be really useful. Yeah, I haven't used it. I will be using it in the future though, because I'm currently working on a blanket, a sort of Slytherin themed blanket, and it's going to be made up of 150 squares. So this is again a pattern I've designed, but it's taking forever to make. I've got all the yarn, I just keep getting distracted by other projects, and it's like a really bulky project, this one. It uses like an 8mm hook for the squares, so it's going to be a really thick blanket when it's done. But yeah, I'm planning to dry the squares on this to make them hold their shape better. Right, so I want to talk a bit more about my journey and the sort of tips and tricks I learned along the way. Now, my number one tip would be do not give up. Like, when you first start crochet, you're probably not going to be that good at it. Like, you might be a prodigy and just get it from the get-go, but you're probably not going to. You're probably going to struggle, and that is completely okay. Crochet is something that takes time, and you will improve at. Your tension will get, you know, more uniform. At the start, it's going to be very either loose or tight or mix and match. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. You just keep on working on it, and there are so many great YouTube videos. Like, we're so lucky to live in like a digital age where everything's available online. So you can go on YouTube, you can find so many great stitch tutorials for like, you know, depending on what kind of style you like. There are some people who go faster, some people who go slower. There's all sorts of fantastic tutorials out there, and that is how I learned. I don't know anyone else in my life who crochets. I learned completely through YouTube. YouTube was my teacher, especially Bella Coco. Like, if you're just learning to crochet, Bella Coco is my absolute number one. Recommend her to everyone. She goes through so slowly, she does it all step by step. Like, even now, when I'm learning a new stitch, I seek out Bella Coco tutorials because I just think she's brilliant. I'm so grateful to her for, like, if it wasn't for her, I probably wouldn't be able to be crocheting, because I tried watching a couple of other videos and I just couldn't follow along with them, but the fact she breaks it down so well just makes it so easy to follow, and I love her videos. Another recommendation I would have is don't go yarn crazy at the very start. It's so easy to get addicted to crochet and to get addicted to buying new yarn and having like loads of different ones, and that's what I did at the start. I went on eBay and I bought a bunch of different yarn bundles, and I really, really wish that I hadn't done that and I had instead gone to various shops, tested the different yarns, like, you know, felt the thickness of them, felt how smooth and soft they are, etc., and just figured out which yarns I was most comfortable using, because I have a bunch of yarns even now. Like, I've given away some yarns to like various charities and stuff, and I still have some yarns that I bought in my early days of crochet, and I know I'm probably never going to use because they're just not the kind of yarns that I enjoy using. It either like they could have like sequiny bits in them or be too fuzzy or whatever, but the point is I'm never going to use them. So I would say wait and find out what your style is. Practice on a few different yarns, see which ones you feel most comfortable with, and then choose the ones you get. You know, get them on sale or whatever, got to watch your wallet, that's fine, but definitely I would recommend don't just buy a bunch at once at the start before you know what you're comfortable using. I'd also say try and seek out projects at the start that are quite small, so like hats and scarves, etc. Now, washcloths are often recommended as a starter project, but the thing with them is they have to be made with cotton yarn, and I would say as a beginner, cotton yarn is actually quite hard to use because there's no give in it. Like acrylic and wool and most other yarn blends, they have that give, so when you're sort of putting the hook through, there's that extra sort of looser tension, which you can then control easier, whereas with cotton, there is no give whatsoever. The only tension you have is what you bring through initially, and it can be really hard to work with. Like, I remember when I first started using the cotton yarn, and I was like, my gosh, this is really hard to work with, because I was so used to having that extra slack, and it is a big change. So if you're just starting out and you're making a washcloth, because acrylic washcloths don't really work, so you have to really go with cotton, and that's hard to use. So I would definitely recommend starting out, go for a hat and work it flat. Working in the rounds can be a bit harder because it's easy to either add or drop stitches, or to attach it to the wrong one or get the starting chain wrong, whereas with working in the flat it's a lot more forgiving, especially because even if you mess up slightly and like add a few stitches or miss a few stitches, when you're sewing it back up to link the two sides, it's not as noticeable. So that my number one project recommendation would be either a hat worked flat or a scarf. Those are two of my favourite things to make, and I'm actually going to insert a clip here from one of my videos showing off items I've made for the craft fair, so I'm going to speed it up so you don't have to watch the whole thing, but I'm basically going to show off some of the hats and scarves I've made. Can see I love hats and scarves, and I have made so many of them. Like, even now I keep making hats and scarves because they're so fun to make. I've been on a shawl binge as well. I really like shawls, but yeah, hats and scarves are my absolute staple, even though I don't really wear them myself. Like, I've got a hat and scarf set I actually use myself. I'd literally never used one before because I don't suit hats, but I finally made a hat that actually looks okay on me. And as for scarves, I really don't like the way they sort of dangle there, so I made myself an infinity scarf, and I love it because it just wraps around and stays in place. I don't have to worry and fiddle with bits dangling about, so I think that's brilliant. Infinity scarves are just genius idea. I love them. But yeah, so you got those. I would also recommend, if you've got a bit of extra spare money, knit crate. I love getting my knit crate each month. Like, it's been one of the highlights of my crochet journey. So I first got my first box in October because I just had my birthday and I wanted to treat myself, and I'm so glad I did because I saw an advert for them, and yeah, doing a deal where you can get first box for $5. So I thought, well, you know what, that's insanely cheap, I'll just give it a go, and I'm so glad I did. I get it each month. It absolutely just makes my day when I receive it through the post. So yeah, if you're starting out, you've got a bit of money, and you want to have some fancier yarns, not just your regular ones, why not go for knit crate? What I'll do, I'll leave a link in the description, and if you click on that, you can get your first box for $5 as well. So yeah, I've made some beautiful stuff with knit crate, and I'll link a few of those that I've made in the video now. Small example of what I've made. I've made a few other things with knit crates because I'm planning to make like a blanket, making blanket squares out of the knit crate yarns, but I'm only picking the yarns that I think will suit the colour scheme, so hopefully by the end of the year I'll have a really cool, beautiful blanket. So if any of you have seen my previous video, you will realise that I've had a very interesting journey with amigurumi. So I've only made two things because I just find them so hard to work. It's such small stitches, and like, I maintain, I think they're one of the most brilliant parts about crochet. Like, being able to make 3D things is genius. I love it, but it's just not for me, unfortunately. Maybe in the future, who knows. But yeah, I've got a little snail that I made that's terrible, and I'll put a picture here. And I've also got my baby Yoda that I'm super proud of, so I'll put a picture of him here. So yes, those were the two things I've made with amigurumi. Might make some more in the future. When I save up some more yarn ends in my little yarn bowl, then I'll consider making a small amigurumi with it maybe. But yeah, so now I'm gonna have a think about my favourite items. So my absolute favourite item is this shawl I made with a sheep jazwal, and I just love the gradients on that. Like, sheep jazwals are expensive, but they're so worth the money in my opinion. So they're about £20 over here where I am in the UK, and they're 1,000 metres, which is like so much. That's insane. And so I made this gorgeous shawl called the Breenin shawl, and yeah, I just love it. So I'm going to insert a video from one of my previous ones showing off that shawl. It is just absolutely gorgeous. Like, it's the most beautiful shawl ever. I just adore it. Like, I'm so glad I did sort of plump for getting that sheep jazwal. And I've actually got another sheep jazwal that I got for my birthday back in October. I haven't got around to using yet because I really want to make sure I do it justice and pick the perfect project for it. So I'm tempted to make another shawl like the last one just because it is such a pretty pattern, but I'm also thinking of trying out something new as well. So yeah, and I also love this shawl. So this is one I made with the knit crate yarn as well, and as you can see, hang on, there we go, it's got some gorgeous colours in there. So it's kind of like purpley, bluey, reddy. Like, it's purple, but it's got like blue and red hints to it. And I love the pattern on it as well. And I pin it together with this little brooch that I have. And this shawl's so warm as well. I love it. I love just wearing it indoors when it's a bit chilly, especially for videos as well, because I usually wear a dressing gown indoors, but my dressing gown is a bit embarrassing. And I had when I was a teenager, it's just like these pink hearts and stuff on it, so I don't want to wear them on stream, so I'm a grown-up with a shawl like adults wear. But yeah, like, this past year of crochet has been the most insanely amazing journey. Like, ever since I started and actually properly got used to it, I have crocheted every single day apart from when I've been on holiday. Like, crochet has just become such an integral part of my life. And I've even done a couple of craft fairs. Like, I never would have imagined I would have got to that stage, but I did. I went to a couple of craft fairs. One of them was really successful. The other one wasn't as successful for reasons beyond my control. But the point was, I actually put myself out there and I made enough stuff that could go on them, and just, yeah, it's been such an amazing, wonderful experience. It's such a great hobby, and I've met so many wonderful people through crochet as well, like online, because like I said, I don't know anyone in real life who crochets, so having that sort of online community has been so important to me, and being able to share pictures of my work and seeing other people's work. It's just such a supportive, wonderful, wholesome community to be a part of. So yeah, and to all of you as well who subscribe to my channel or just watch my videos, thank you so much for being there, for being part of my crochet journey. I love sharing it with you. Crochet is just such an important and wonderful part of my life, and I'm assuming if you watch this, it's probably quite a big part of your life as well. So yeah, it's just wonderful to have that crochet community. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned a bit more about like what crochet means to me and what my crochet journey's been like. I would love to hear how you guys came to crochet and how long you guys have been crocheting for, because like I said, I've been crocheting for about a year now, and I'm so excited for what the future holds and what things I might make in the future, and new stitches I'll learn and new yarns I'll get to use. So yeah, just in the comments, just tell me some of the favourite things that have been part of your crochet journey, perhaps some obstacles you've overcome, the progress you've made. Let's really get in the comments and support each other on everyone's crochet journey that they're on. So yeah, please like the video, drop a comment down below like I said, and please subscribe to the channel for more crochet and yarn videos in the future. Bye bye.